It's really a good guide for people to get into comedy. And in that उसमें लिखा था that how do you recognize a comedian? ऐसा नहीं कि दर्द से comedy निकली है or something. ऐसा इतना भी दर्द नहीं था. I think writing definitely, in my opinion, is so there are some comedians who their jokes are so well written. See, I think you can't teach anybody stand-up comedy. You can teach writing. You can teach the basics. You can teach the do's and don'ts. Stand-up comedy is all about writing. So you should have. So in some colleges they teach creative writing. And also, sometimes people feel that only when people are drunk do they laugh.
Hi everybody, welcome to another show of the First 90%. Today we have with us one of the OGs of the Indian stand-up comic scene, Mr. Atul Khatri. Welcome Atul to the show.
Thank you, Raghav. Thank you so much for having me here. Such a pleasure to be here.
So Atul, it's a great pleasure to have you on the show. I'm a big fan. I've watched you so many times live in and around Bombay. My first question to you, as you know, the show is about the first 90%. The first 90% of our brain gets developed before the age of 6 years. And we try to connect the dots about how a person who has achieved something, has a great talent, how it connects with their childhood. So you became a comedian at a very late stage, I would say, in your life.
I think my brain's developed pretty late.
So, but can you trace something in your childhood or in your teenage years where you can say, okay, maybe I had that spark for comedy?
Okay, so I'll just tell you, when I started doing comedy in 2012, I just started at the impulse. I was 44 at that time. In around 2013, somebody said, read this book called The Comedy Bible by Judy Carter. It's a book about stand-up comedy, how to get into comedy. So when I read the book after doing like 1 year into comedy, and there it was written over there that, and Judy Carter is a very, very renowned name in the US. She's a comedian herself. She's written 2 books on stand-up comedy. And it's really a good guide for people to get into comedy. And in that, उसमें लिखा था that how do you recognize a comedian, Are there any early signs? और उसमें लिखा था that maybe they are the funny guy in the friends group. Every group is that, or the funny uncle you have in the house. Mama ji aate hai, so he keeps on cracking jokes and all that. So those are the early traits of, So when I look back, so as a kid, I used to always enjoy watching funny movies. Always.
Okay.
Like given a choice, like I remember when I was maybe teen or slightly more than the teens, we used to go for plays at Prithvi Theatre here. And my friends used to say, we're going for this very serious. I said, yeah, mujhe nahi jana hai. But if it's a funny play or a humorous play or a movie, I would love to go that. Like I remember as a kid, I would have watched Bombay to Goa, which is the funny Mehmood and Amitabh Bachchan, at least like 30 times, Movies like Padosan, then on VCR, on the VHS, we used to get this Airplane series. It was a spoof satirical comedy from the US. So I used to always love watching that. Maybe I watched it twice, thrice on the VCR. So VCR, for all the kids out there, it was a device before electronic media came in. Much before CD, LD, DVD.
Yeah.
So when you think back, and I look back at some instances in childhood, like when I was the 9th, 10th grade, I had a group of friends. I used to keep on playing pranks on them, so when I think back, I said, yeah, maybe those are the funny, connecting again the dots, what Judy said in a book, and that yeah, maybe they are the traits. So I keep on telling people, for people who are very funny, in a conversation, you meet 4-5 people, and there's one guy who's always looking at things differently, maybe that is the indication that, yeah, maybe give it a shot.
But where does this come from? Like, do you know what is that need to be funny? Is it to stand out in the crowd? Is it to feel important? Is it a defense mechanism? Or is there you just never reflected on it?
It's very different for different people.
Okay.
It's different for different people. Like sometimes it is just it's a catharsis just to get things out of, there's something which is bothering you.
Yeah.
And you want to go on stage and talk about it. Like I remember around 5 years back, my dog passed away. And dog is like a family member. It was a big emotional moment and all. And I was feeling so miserable. In the morning, we had to put him down because he was having cancer or things like that. The whole day was miserable. In the evening, said, let me go to an open mic. And I just went and just spoke about the dog, little funny things, little bit. but I just helped me so much. It was like a great process for me to tide over my loss, and thankfully for comedians we have a stage, we have a mic, so we can do that. But I think for different people it's very different things. For something it could be a childhood thing, something
Yeah.
it could just be getting acceptance on stage. People typically, most comedians are supposed to be introvert.
Yeah.
They are, I know many of them. So I'm not the introvert, I am the extrovert, but I'm just saying there are a lot of comedians who are introvert, and the only way they come out on stage and they sort of get over that thing when they're talking to complete room full of 300 strangers who they don't know.
Actually, that's a very interesting point. And if I reflect on it, there's so many engineers who become stand-up comics. Like you were an engineer.
I'm an engineer.
Biswa is an
Biswa's
engineer.
Vipul is
Prashasti,
Prashasti,
Varun Grover.
yeah, Varun Grover.
So, ये क्या करेक्शन है कि engineering college में and engineering has nothing to do with comedy. It's a serious discipline.
I did my engineering in computer science, yes. So there's
Exactly.
nothing what I'm doing right now.
IIT जाके आप comedy में कैसे जा रहे हो? मतलब ये क्या हो रहा है यहाँ पे?
I don't
What's
know.
your thesis on
I
it?
don't know. I don't think it has got. I don't know. I think it's तब तो शायद पेरेंट्स ने फोर्स किया होगा इंजीनियरिंग करो. एक भीड़ भाड़ चल रहा था कि चलो इंजीनियरिंग जाओ या
Is there a sense of rebellion that is happening there? I've heard these comics
Maybe.
say talk about it कि यार मेरे को
maybe.
पुश किया गया इसलिए मैं इंजीनियरिंग गया पर मैं फेल होता था.
हाँ.
So is there like that kind की that rebellious?
नहीं, मेरे में तो
behavior?
नहीं था, to be honest with you.
Okay.
I back in when I in 89 when I got out of 84 when I got out of 85 when I got out of my 12th grade, then I had to decide whether you want to do so in 10th only I decided I want to do science. Okay, so I didn't want to do commerce or arts. And then in science typically there are two streams, either doctor
Yeah,
or engineer.
हाँ.
And medicine I didn't want to get because I remember it was very traumatic. So I remember I think 11th grade, Jehand College, science, and the biology professor comes, I remember, with a bucket and with a peon behind him with a bucket covered with a lid. Okay. And he opens and this is just full of cockroaches. Okay. And that's in that phenyl they put. So those cockroaches are not dead. Okay. So in 11th, 12th in science, you have to dissect a cockroach, you have to dissect
Which
a
is
frog.
not dead.
Yeah, frog and an earthworm. Earthworm फिर भी ठीक है, you know. But a cockroach, and he said, everybody put your hands on it. We didn't know what was happening. And he opened the bucket. It was a bucket full of semi-dead cockroaches. He takes the cockroach and starts putting it on our palms like this. And people are throwing it. And, the cockroaches flying all over the room, I remember. That was very traumatic for me. So, and I didn't want to get into medicine.
Yeah. I think that professor had some dark humor. He knew it. People are going to throw it.
Yeah. People in Jain that time, his name was Professor Lahiri. I remember his name. Very strict guy, very this. But at that time, they had their own way. Right? Then we had to dissect frogs. I used to not like that process. So medicine to bilkul nahi tha. Engineering was obviously the next option. And I was my grades were always good. So करना तो था engineering करना था. So I went into engineering. There was no forcing on me or किस parents ने force किया and things like that. I wanted to do engineering. And I liked the process. But I think maybe the especially when you do an IIT and things like that, the process of getting into IIT, of the process, like competing against lakhs of students to get into the IIT JEE and things like that. I think that itself is like a fairly I would say very people I think sometimes get bogged down by that entire process.
Yeah, it's a lot of pressure.
Absolutely.
Let's put it like that.
Yeah,
it's a lot of pressure for that young mind, right?
Yeah. So I think that's the reason why most engineers, lot of comedians. I don't think I would say most काफी engineers हैं who are comedians. Yeah.
But I would, you're right. Like it's not like majority are engineers, but it's like there's a very high correlation.
Yeah. ऐसे नहीं कि दर्द से कॉमेडी निकली है or something. ऐसे इतना भी दर्द नहीं था. To be very honest with you.
Yeah. No, I think there's a point to be made that it requires a lot of hard work and intelligence to get into IIT. And your profession is also not easy.
Absolutely not. It's not at all easy. People think it's very easy. It looks very easy. People think just have 2 drinks, get up on stage and kuch bhi bakchodi karo. Sorry, I can use the word. I don't know. But it's not that. It is not that. It is very, very hard work. And especially in today's day and time where on your WhatsApp, on your phone every day, kuch bhi incident hota hai. By the evening, there are 400 jokes already come on your WhatsApp on that thing. Whatever is the incident, And so when you get up on stage and talk about something, your jokes have to rise above that. Because लोग बोलेंगे ये तो यार WhatsApp पे सुन लिया.
Correct.
So it's become more difficult to write jokes, and more comedians are coming. Premises तो उतने ही हैं. So how to sort of, remove humor out of that. You have to like actually, sort of search for gold.
Yeah.
And that searching for gold, just to let you know, most internationally, most comedians have a new 1 hour special. Takes them around 1.5 year, which
Yeah.
typically if you break it down, it's like roughly around 4-5 minutes of new jokes per month. That's it, 4-5 minutes you have to write.
Correct.
Because when you go on stage and watch a comedian, he has to be bang, 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 bang. Like you have to be absolutely entertained for that 1 hour, forget all your worries, laugh and go away. That's
Yeah.
it, And so the point I'm telling you, it's very difficult to write jokes.
Correct.
And but that's the beauty. But it's like fun. That's the challenge which you have. Okay, where can you find humor from?
Yeah. So stand-up comedy has two aspects. One is the writing,
Absolutely.
and one is the performance.
Absolutely.
Right. And I'm not talking about any of the logistics and managerial aspect of your career, but out of these two, which one is more important? Which one is harder to do? Which one is your strength as well?
I think writing definitely, in my opinion, is so there are some comedians who their jokes are so well written.
Yeah.
They're so tight that they can go on with a straight face. There's a zero, not that even that straight face is a performance also in a way, but the jokes are so bang on that you're laughing at just the sheer genius of that joke. Okay, but there are some comedians, the jokes are okay, but they make it up with the performance.
Okay.
They jump on the stage, they dance, they do something like that, and that. And I know comedians in the industry who are both.
Both, yeah.
Yeah, and
Can you give examples just for people to understand?
like I mean, there's a comedian called Mitch Hedberg. He passed away. He's an American comedian, Mitch Hedberg. He's a legend. Very well written jokes, extremely tight. And he used to just go. He used to not even look at the audience. I think he was drunk or drugged. I don't know. He used to just look down and just deliver the jokes, one-liners, but brilliant.
Acha.
I mean, there are case studies done on his brilliance of his one-liner jokes. So not too much performance, but just.
And in Indian scene, like if you see some of the popular comedians, Tanmay or Zakir or Biswa.
Yeah, for Zakir, for example, has got amazing storytelling, a craft in him. Which has been obviously developed, worked. So if you go to a Zakir show, it's just not, you will not, it's like a setup punchline, one-liner jokes you'll not get. You'll get a very like a story, weaving story, which will be emotional, which will be, but it binds you.
Yeah.
Because world over now, comedy has not just become about, one-liner jokes. It has become about you taking the audience along a journey, following them on a journey, and people sometimes cry. Also in the audience, people are crying also sometimes.
And yeah, so
and at the end, there's a big burst of laughter. So it's an emotion, and you.
Correct.
So because what happens is, you people should take back something from the show. One-liner jokes you may tend to forget. Like recently a comedian had come over, and Anthony Jeselnik. He had performed in India. He's a very, very famous comedian. He does dark jokes. Absolutely.
Okay.
His genre is dark jokes. And typically one-liner. One-liner, two-liner jokes, And again, brilliant. But you may just remember one or two jokes, but you don't remember his story because he doesn't talk about it.
It doesn't stay with you.
It doesn't stay with you. But for that 1.5 hour, you had a great time.
Yeah.
So everybody has his own style depending upon, people's voices also change,
Okay.
Maybe when Zakir started out, 12, 13 years back, he was more a setup punchline. Over the years, he's become more this,
Yeah.
So it people it evolves also from comedian to comedian,
How would you describe your style? Like you're a better performer, better writer. What is harder for you to do?
Say no. So writing is always very hard. I mean,
Okay.
writing jokes, as I told you earlier, is very, very hard to write jokes. I mean, more difficult than performance. Performance, you can work towards a performance.
Okay.
It's you can. I would say but writing is something which has to be very, very powerful. So I would say I would be at like a 60-70% writing, 30% performance.
Okay.
In my play, because I don't do too much of histrionics on stage or run around or
Yeah.
Like for example, I'll tell you, when I was performing in Amsterdam, I had gone for a festival many years back. It was an international festival, and there in Amsterdam, the audience loves the comedian to do a lot of things on stage.
Oh, okay.
So somebody goes on stage and just deliver jokes.
People don't like it.
They prefer more a comedian who's So if you say something like as simple as, like I was stomping that cockroach, you can just say I was stomping on the cockroach. But if you just do that action like a funny action, they are more with you there. Just to give you an example. There's a comedian in Amsterdam only told me this,
So there's also like a cultural difference.
Absolutely. Cultural though is like crazy across, because when you're performing, like I remember I had long time back, we do marriage jokes in India, which work very well. So I was doing something, I was that time 25 years into marriage, so I would have the entire set, I'm 25 years into marriage and this and that and all that. And I was performing in London, it's an English set, and those guys are not laughing. And then a comedian told me, boss, they are just thinking, why the hell, why are you suffering for 25 years? You should have divorced in 2 years and got out of a marriage. Why the hell are you here telling us if you're 25 you are an idiot? Your wife is absolutely fine. You should have separated, So it's very cultural. Choice of words sometimes make a difference. Like if I ask over here, what's your drinking age limit in Mumbai, you'll say it's 25 or whatever it is, They don't understand the construct drinking age limit. So you have to just rephrase it. At what age are children allowed to drink, or are you allowed to drink? So it's just that...
And they don't understand, might completely land flat
just by one word here and there, which you realize maybe after months of doing that. And that you even realize in India. Sometimes after doing years of the joke, and you just pause at one place by mistake, and suddenly you get a laughter. And you say, oh my God.
I had to pause here.
I had to pause here, which I'm not doing for the last 2 years. This is a journey which takes time. So jokes itself, a set itself takes sometimes months to develop. Sometimes contextually things could change. You're talking about something, but the world, something has changed outside, but it has changed your joke.
So you're saying that it takes maybe like months to develop a 4 or 5 minute segment, right? Like if you're doing a 1 hour special, it takes 1 year, 1.5 years to develop that. But so what is the shelf life of the joke? You have developed it now. So now 1 hour of your segment will last you for how long? How long you can keep on repeating the jokes?
You can. So what typically happens is if you're doing a live show, if you've seen me now, you will not see me again after 6 months, unless you're tremendously in love with me, you want to see me every day. That's a different story. But you will not see me again. You will see some other comedian. So, and we also travel from city to city, country to country. So the audience keeps on changing. So typically what you do is like you write a new special, a show, you take it across all geographies, you can take it. And also you see that the joke itself has a longer shelf life. So if you talk about an incident, for example, if you talk about elections, or you talk about COVID for that matter, your COVID joke will only work for a year beyond COVID or 2 years beyond COVID. If you talk about COVID after 6 years, you'll say, "Yaar, khatam ho gaya, yaar."
Correct.
Why are you talking still about it? So your joke itself or the topic, you have to see, you take such a topic which is not topical. It doesn't die. It has a long shelf life. So like marriage jokes or some, life jokes, observations, will always be there. It's not topical. It doesn't die. It doesn't have a shelf life. But having said that, you write a show, you take it across. After 1.5, 2 years of traveling with the show, 1.5 year traveling with the show, then you yourself get tired about doing the same jokes. And as a comedian, you're anyway writing new jokes. So typically what most comedians do is they put it up on their YouTube channel or an OTT platform. So once it's released online, typically we don't repeat those jokes on stage.
Because so you put up the show at the very end of...
Absolutely, of me performing it.
So all the shows that have come on Prime and Netflix, they are at the end of their...
Absolutely, whoever you've seen, if you're talking about Zakir's show, he's doing it for 1.5 years. Then he released it on Prime or wherever he released it.
Got it.
Russell Peters has his newspaper. He takes it across the world 1.5 years, travels across it. Then one fine day he'll shoot in some auditorium or some stadium somewhere and release it. And then afterwards, then you stop doing that because it's already up online.
And you're also continuously writing news material when you are on tour.
Your tour, you're saying something, you have some thoughts, you're building those thoughts, Because for a comedian, there's no other better, I would say, high when you've written something new and you've gone on stage for the first time trying and it is done well.
And it worked,
You don't get sleep at night. My God, it's like, it's like such a high you get.
पुराने
jokes तो पता है चल ही रहे हैं. नया jokes अभी लिखा, And as a comedian, as a writer, as a comedian, you see that you challenge yourself, Maybe talk about something. And it's always, when I look at it, coming back to your first question, there are sometimes deep-rooted things. incidents which has happened to you in the past where you sort of get it up on stage, maybe in a different way, but you do definitely talk about it,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell me something. Coming to the same question, right? Does it happen that when you start writing jokes as a career or as a profession and taking it seriously, then you maybe reflect on older incidents in your life and find humor in them?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Earlier you didn't, but now you can. ऐसा होता है क्या?
So typically, like I'll tell you, my first set which I ever did, my first open mic I ever did, 3rd Feb 2012. It was in a comedy club, not comedy club, it was a small cafe here in Worli in Mumbai. I spoke about something which was, I used to find it very funny. Like I'll tell you, I mean, it's there, I think it's there on YouTube, where as kids we used to go to this gymkhana, gymkhana culture. So my parents we had a lot of family friends. Like dad had some 3 best friends. So 4 of them with their wives, all their children, all similar age. We used to go to the gymkhana on Sunday. And, the waiter used to come and take our order for the soup. And we should give an order. And there was an aunt. She said, "Pagal hai, bachche log itna nahi piyega. Make it 3/13, or something like that. Some weird equation she used to give. And we used to get little soup bowls, And so that's why my handle is 1/2.
Okay.
Which is such an Indian thing to do, because only in India
only in India 1/2, 2/3, 1/3.
In my gymkhana, people come and do 1/2 of an idli. Okay, now you'll say, यार इडली तो वैसे ही 2 आती है, उसका क्या 1/2 करे? And I'll tell you what they do. People who are regular at the gymkhana बोलेगा एक इडली 1/2, एक इडली मैं आज खाऊंगा, एक कल खाऊंगा. They carry forward the idli because eating the idli is so huge. आप 2 नहीं खा सकते, it fills you up. So एक खाओ आज, एक इसको carry forward कर. We will do 1/2 of chai यार, of coffee they do.
वो भी कल पिएंगे, शाम में पिएंगे.
पता नहीं वो कब पीते हैं, but so this is such a unique thing of India, this 1/2. So my first set was talking about that. Like what does the chef, does he has an engineer sitting behind who's just trying to somehow calculate these complex 3/13, 4/4, not 4/15. It can't be, I would say, even numbers.
Divided.
Evenly divided. You have to have this complex,
Yeah.
Like what kind of measuring instruments do they have? So that was my first set I ever talked about. It came from a deep-rooted thing.
Life is just more colorful when
And
you
I
are in
used to
this
hate it after
profession.
some time, and as you're getting slightly older, you get more hungry as a kid. You're growing as a boy.
Yeah.
And you go there and have this bloody 3/13 soup, and you say, "What the hell? I want to have more soup." But that aunt said, "No, itna hi pina hai. Bacche log, tum log bacche log ho." I said, "No, we are growing." So I used to always tell my mother, "I will never go for this again, because that aunt never feeds us." So it comes from a deep-rooted thing.
Yeah.
Some stories come, you delve deeper, and you wonder, why did you say this?
Yeah.
And it comes from somewhere.
But आप एक चीज बताओ मुझे. You are saying that this is like whatever you explained, right? It's funny. Like I'm laughing right now, even though you're telling it in a more candid way, not like a scripted way, right?
Absolutely.
Because it's funny. It's funny by itself.
Correct.
But as a professional stand-up comic, you said that you have to obviously write also and be a good writer, and it has to be measured and perfect, and delivery with the pauses and everything, right? So that is a different kind of talent, I would say, right? Like writing, like I can be funny, but I might not have the writing talent. How would that work? So
yeah.
So is that something?
When you write, you have to see it that in the audience there could be an 18-year-old. There could be a 60-year-old.
Yeah.
From different parts of India. Suppose you're performing in India.
Yeah.
Somebody who's just come for a holiday from Rajasthan to meet his relative. Chal comedy show pe chal. Okay. There's somebody from Mumbai. There's an old couple sitting. There's a single man sitting, a single woman sitting. People from different economic strata, people from different parts of India, different educational, different upbringing are sitting in an audience. And that audience sometimes can become 1,000 people.
Yeah.
For performing in a big auditorium.
Yeah.
Now you have to get them all at a common level, and your jokes have to cut across them. It should not be 18-year-old kya bol raha hai, or 60-year-old enjoying, and the 18-year-old, 30-year-old not enjoying.
Yeah.
So everybody has to enjoy. So, and then now you take it one step ahead. You're performing in an international audience.
वो तो अलग ही level
So
हो
there are
गया.
people from China sitting, there are people from America, people from India, people from all over the world sitting. And this happens if you go and perform in Hong Kong, you perform in Dubai.
Yeah.
People from all communities around the world are sitting in the audience. Or you perform in the US in a good comedy club. So I'm just saying that now your humor has to cut across everything. you know.
Right.
So that is the challenge.
Yeah.
That is your writing, and so typically, like, so I'll tell you what happens. That typically, as a comedian, initially you'll write jokes about, just to give. If I'm from Mumbai, you'll write jokes about the potholes in Bandra. You'll talk about Sakinaka. You'll talk about these. Now you go to Delhi and perform. They don't know Bandra. They don't know Sakinaka. They don't know Khar. Just to give an example.
correct.
So very regional, very specific jokes will not work.
Not work, yeah.
So when you go out, you say, "Arey, ye to joke will not work." People are not laughing because they're not getting the context. Either you set up that long context, explain what a Sakinaka is, just to give an example, or you do some research. What is a Sakinaka in Delhi? Like I know, I'm saying Sakinaka always crowded.
Yeah.
So now I know in Delhi there's this, in Bangalore there's this junction called Silk Board.
Okay.
You just say Silk Board to Bangalore, they start laughing because there's again some like a junction. There's some crazy traffic every day in the morning somewhere on the outskirts. I think it's near Whitefield or somewhere in the electronic zone. So it's always crowded. So like that, either you like if you go to Europe and you say, "Where are the Germans?" People start laughing. So as I say, the Germans are the Gujaratis of the international world. In India, you go Bombay, you can say, "Where are the Gujaratis?" People just start laughing. So I'm just saying that. So like that, you as soon as you travel, you come to know nuances.
Yeah.
So now coming back to that, now you're an international audience, 1,000 people in the audience, all from everywhere, different countries. Now your jokes, your language, everything has to cut across, and you have to get them all on the same plane. You have to get them in your story, hooked onto the story. And today also what has happened is that thanks to this blessed phone, that if you're not engaging them, people will immediately go on the phone. कोई WhatsApp खोल के कोई Instagram reel देखेगा आपके सामने. You're sitting and you're saying.
And then it demoralizes you also.
And they are not now. They've switched off from you. They don't care what you're saying.
Yeah. So this writing skill for you, do you have memories of you also being very interested in writing, or did that come after you decided to be a comic?
No. So I'll tell you. So. Remember when the bomb blast happened? 93 bomb blast. I don't think there was social media. Emails the.
Yeah.
So I remember I had written a funny piece like a satire on that.
Okay.
Like why terrorists will never come to Bombay or something कुछ था.
अच्छा.
Like वो तो ट्रेन में अटक गया, ट्रैफिक में अटक गया.
Okay.
Some very silly things. So I had written a long blog about it. Or I had written, I think once some American president had come to India, not Barack Obama.
Bill Clinton
आया होगा. तो तभी मैंने एक funny piece लिखा था. क्या 10 tips.
Bill Clinton had come, it was a big deal.
So 10 tips for Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton when they came for this. Like when you go to a restaurant, or please order 1/2. Something like that. You pay for one, but you get 1.2. Right? When you go to eat a sev puri on the road, in the end, ask for the extra puri.
That's also a very Bombay thing, by the way. I'm from Calcutta. वहाँ नहीं होता ये. Bombay में आके I saw कि ये anyway.
Or you eat a sandwich, in the end they give you that slice, with a little butter and some potato, So like that, I had made these 10-15 tips. But how do I spread it across?
Okay.
तो मेरे को याद है मैं email पे अपने friends को भेजता था. Okay, and wait and that time you think of it. Wait for that instant gratification.
Right.
क्या किसने reply किया? One guy would write, ha, very funny.
Yeah.
Or you go to a newspaper and put that in the column. That was the only way.
Correct.
Right? Go to a Midday or go to a Times of India and tell them there's a funny column I've written. That time funny columns were nothing but like Facebook posts, long posts, or like that. Are you from Mumbai?
I'm from Calcutta, but I've been in Bombay for 15 years.
So in Mumbai, there is on Marine Drive, there used to be Nana Palkewala, who was, I think, first mayor of Mumbai or something. He's father of NC Shaina.
Okay.
Who was the BJP spokeswoman. Her dad, unka idhar Marine Drive pe, there was a place called Not Just Jazz by the Bay.
Yeah. I know. पहले Jazz by the Bay था, फिर Not Just
Jazz. There is a banner.
हाँ, वहाँ पे वो स्लोगन डालते रहते हैं.
स्लोगन तो वो उन्होंने शुरू किया था.
अच्छा. हाँ.
Okay, so every week he used to put up a slogan over there.
Correct.
It was a satire.
हाँ.
A political satire होता था. Something happening in the like for right now.
जैसे अमूल टाइप का ही है वो.
हाँ, अमूल is more positive.
Yeah.
That used to be more satirical against the government, sarcastic, but
yeah.
funny and sarcastic.
Yeah.
Just in that banner,
correct.
maybe like 6 words, 8 words, used to put up that.
Yeah.
Brilliant. People used to come to quote there to see. I remember I was in Jai Hind College that time, which is over there. I used to go just to see क्या ये week में क्या लिखा है उन्होंने. So I think when I look back,
हाँ.
those things used to really inspire me. एक हमारे there used to be a newspaper अभी बंद हो गया called Afternoon.
Okay.
It was like the midday. It was a afternoon tabloid. It was called only Afternoon. It was written by this guy called Behram Contractor. He had a pen name called Busy Bee.
Okay.
So he used to write this column.
हाँ.
You know, he had that time he was not married, so he used to talk about his children. He had nobody. He was alone. We talk about children and very funny incidents, like, you know. And again, like for example, like a Hillary Clinton coming or Bill Clinton coming to India, he would have written a nice big satirical piece on that. You know, very funny. So I used to read that. So when you think back, this was the thing. Like when I was a kid, my brothers and sisters used to get this Mad magazine, which is nothing but satire.
Correct.
You know, I was a huge fan of Mad magazine. I still have must be having close to 500-600 Mad magazines at home, collected over the years. And so all these were I would say when I look back, you know, they were the sort of building blocks for me.
Where you learnt your sort of craft.
Yeah, like even I remember I used to read Amar Chitra Katha. Akbar Bilbar stories used to always be so much fun.
Right.
Compared to like a Ramayan ki story in Amar Chitra Katha. Because Akbar Bilbar was always had a punch at the end.
Correct.
Or a Vikram Vetal.
Yeah.
You know, they had something at the end.
Correct,
you know? So
correct.
that used to always interest me more than that. And coming back to, you know, again back to your question is, so when you write, you typically, initially when you write, they are just thoughts.
Yeah.
You go to an open mic, you try it. It may work, you'll say, हाँ, इसमें कुछ meat है. And you keep on developing on that. And every comedian has its own process to write a joke.
Okay.
Somebody may not actually put it up on a laptop. Somebody just keep it in the head and keep on developing in the head.
Acha.
Yeah.
And then they just write like ये वाला joke है.
हाँ, sometimes you're not even written. I have some sets in the past, like 20 minutes. It's not there on paper at all. It's all over here.
Okay.
Yeah. But then what I've realized is once it's in the thought and once you put it on a laptop, you can add more tags to it. Because when you're writing it, now you're seeing it. Can I maybe add one more punch here? And that one small punch here or small tag here, you know, can make all the difference, you know. Like I remember I wrote a joke recently where I said, you know, like when we go abroad, people think that Indians are chindi. But we are one of the biggest spenders in the world.
Exactly.
We are the biggest spenders.
Yeah.
You know? We are this. And then I wrote over here, our Mukesh Bhai is just spent $1 trillion on his son's wedding.
Yeah.
So that one tag came later on. When I tried it on stage, I got one more laughter there. And as comedians, we are just begging, we are just hunting for that extra chuckle, extra laugh, extra thing. Sometimes a comedian is sitting, your friend is sitting in the audience listening to you. He gives you advice. Okay, why don't you add this? Because you have not thought of it, but he has somebody else, experienced comedian has thought of it and said. So sometimes, comedians give you tags. Or if I see in the audience a fellow comedian sitting, I'll tell him, boss, tu sun mera set.
और
बताना मेरे को message करना अगर कोई tags है क्या. You know? Because sometimes they are thinking what you're not thinking.
Correct. How much of a high is it when you get that you know, laughter to work?
Crazy high.
Is it like
crazy
can
high.
you compare it with something like for us to even sort of identify कि ये क्या चल रहा है?
Unless you've had cocaine, you can't identify.
Achha,
But it's like that kind
that
of
much, yeah?
Like I remember this Sunday I had not this Sunday, the previous Sunday I had a show where I was out of around 1 hour 20 minutes. At least 25 minutes was new material I was trying.
Okay.
I've tried it at open mics, but now you put
stage.
on the spot. Open mic you can get away because they know it's an open mic. You can bomb. But now I'm sitting in front of 700 people. I have to, you know, you have to wing it. And what happens on the spur, some things come out, you know.
Achha,
And that 20 minutes knew everything worked. And my wife was then in the audience when she came back. She saying it was very nice, very funny, this, that. I didn't sleep till 4. It was just the high.
Because the heart is beating and the physiological
high, you're
response.
just thinking out every joke. You're trying, maybe I can add this. It's like you've written. It's like, you know, how a director makes a movie and it becomes a hit. You know? In our case, we don't have to wait so much time. In our case, instantly we come to know it's funny. Because the audience again is so democratic. Your entire family could be sitting, 500 of them. But if you're not funny, they will not laugh.
Correct.
Because the laughter, it's an emotion.
It's the hardest thing for anybody to do, to make people laugh.
Absolutely. You know, making cry is very easy.
And it's true. It's so difficult because you can't get people to fake it.
Yeah, and also, you know, sometimes people feel that, you know, only when people are drunk do they laugh. It's not really a thing. You perform in auditoriums where there's no alcohol and making them laugh and also like imagine they've come all silently sitting waiting for the show to start and then you start the laughing procedure. It's like you're releasing some gas and
Yeah.
laughing,
Yeah. Yeah, amazing. Um, Recently, there's a show on Salim Javed that has come out,
Yeah,
right?
I saw it yesterday.
Yeah, I also
Watched it
finished
yesterday.
the series, and I think that show makes a good point that a writers are not becoming people are not aspiring to be writers. People or writers are not being recognized as maybe Salim Javed were, but we see a lot of great stand-up comics coming out of India in the last few years, right? And they're all writers. So, is there an opportunity for stand-up comics to also write in other avenues
Absolutely,
rather
absolutely.
than just being a comedy?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So world over, like if some of the comedians, like Varun Grover, is a
Yeah, he's a great example.
is a writer. He's written movies. He's written songs. Okay, and he's also a comedian. You know,
Correct.
a brilliant
He's
comedian.
very funny.
Extremely funny.
Yeah.
You know, so there are a lot of avenues for writers. So if you see in a lot of these, sometimes these IFA awards. You know, you're talking to Zakir Khan earlier. Zakir has a show right now. He's on Sony TV. I think Aapka Zakir or something. And there are comedians who are writing for the show. You
Okay.
know, because even in an IFA award, you feel like Shah Rukh Khan or Farhan Akhtar are going on stage and, you know, for 1.5 hour cracking jokes and all. They don't have the time to sit and write all those jokes. The comedians like us have written those jokes.
Okay.
Obviously, they are winging it. Shah Rukh and Farhan or whoever is hosting, Karan Johar, whoever is hosting, there's a teleprompter. They're reading out the jokes. They practice those jokes. You know, they have those whatever they call the sketches they have over there.
Yeah.
You know, so all these are written by comedians. So and world over, if you see like comedians like Steve Martin started as a comedian, went to become an actor. So there are a lot of avenues you can pursue depending upon what everybody's individual thing is. You know.
Even I think Jordan Poole, right? The guy who wrote Get Out.
Yeah.
He
A lot
had
of comedians. There are so many comedians in line who are writing or working on scripts. You know, Ricky Gervais has this brilliant
Correct.
thing on Netflix called Afterlife. If you have not
Yeah.
seen it, just go and watch it. Brilliant, dark, plus sometimes so emotional. In that same 10 minutes, you'll cry also. Plus, then you'll bloody burst out laughing. So well
He's
written.
the guy who wrote The Office, I think, right?
I don't know. I could be
Okay.
mistaken. I'm
Okay.
in my memories at lost right now. Yeah.
Okay.
So
So,
yeah, so there are a lot of
so
avenues.
do you explore those opportunities for yourself also?
So I'm slightly older in the game,
Okay.
and I have lived a life of 25 years in a corporate life. I just enjoy stand-up comedy too much. You
Okay.
know, writing is very difficult. It requires a different mindset. As you mentioned, you saw Salim Javed, that angry young man on thing.
Yeah.
It's screenplay writing.
Yeah.
You know, as Salim Sab said that you have to visualize the screen. Each and every screen, how it's going to come on on live on screen later on. So screenplay writing for movies is very difficult. You have to build characters. You have to build their arcs. Very hard work.
Okay.
You know, sometimes writing a script could take you like years. You know, writing a good script.
Okay.
You know, thought you may have, but making a 3-hour, 2.5 hour movie out of it, it's like a lot of thing. And it's a different skill set. I know if I get into it, I'll get into it. But I really don't want to do it. I want to enjoy comedy. I just enjoy going on stage, making people laugh, you know. Maybe if I was at 18 doing it, I would have definitely, and I would tell people to explore all, you know, when you're young, as a writer, as a comedian, you explore everything. I write for ads.
Okay.
It's copyrights, you write for, you know, ads and things like that. You try to make sometimes some script a little funny, you know. But other than that, writing for a movie or writing lyrics for a song is an art form which is highly skilled, you know.
Okay.
It all depends. Like I know some comedians in our line who had a movie script 6 years ago, ready, bound
Okay.
movies they have made. They've
Yeah,
written a
screenplay.
script. Proper,
Huh.
like bound screenplay, which they have
Yeah.
taken it to directors, but that story didn't get sold. But they're still doing comedy. One day, maybe that script may be accepted, or they're writing scripts, you know. So everybody has a different like aspiration in life, you know. Someone, if you see in movie, everybody wants to be a director. That's the ultimate. The director is the boss. Right? So it's everybody has different aspiration depending upon their stage in life, where they are, where they want to go, you know, where they see themselves. I think it's different for everybody else.
So I want to talk a little bit about where are you in life right now, in terms of your family, in terms of how you want your career to go in the next 5-10 years. Are you still in the mode of कि मुझे और सीखना है, मुझे और मेरे ये ambitions हैं, you're in the zone of, कि I'll take life as it comes.
No. So I'm fairly ambitious that way. I think I'm 13 years into comedy now. More. I started in 2012, 12 and a half years into comedy, and it's a long way to go. They say people in comedy find their voices after 15 years, 20 years.
Okay.
So there's a long way to go to in comedy. I want to travel across the world. I want to perform for international audiences. I want to write something. Always, with your every bit you write, you want to challenge yourself as a writer or in your performance or something you do. So that's always the endeavor to do. Right now I have some short-term goals, like my daughter's getting married now. My daughter's getting married in like 4 months time.
Wow.
So now next 4 months is going to be a lot of focus on that, because she was studying in the UK. She just came back and now we have to prepare for a wedding. So we have just 4 months to prepare. So so all that, lot of focus will go on to that. And so that is the short-term goal. But long-term, like there are a lot of goals which are there. I want to perform at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, which is one of the largest art festival in the world. There are a lot of comedy festivals happen around the world. I think it's still a long way to go. And I keep on, I think, as a human being, forget if you're a comedian, you have to keep on learning.
Right.
You have to unlearn something or de-learn, I don't know what the word is, and always learn something new.
So where do you find, what is your process of learning? Do you have a process, or is it learning on the job, learning by doing? Do you maybe read books, seek inspiration in movies, or?
So I read a lot, not necessarily books, but I read a lot of online articles. I'm not a really book reader. So for that thing of book, I know it's a wrong thing, but it's that I'm not. So I read a lot of online stuff.
Yeah.
I'm a big consumer of newspapers in the morning. Okay, I don't rely on WhatsApp news. I realized long time back.
That's a good
half
strategy.
of them are fake. And as a comedian, to anyway know what's happening in the world, As a comedian, you can't say I don't know what's happening in Bangladesh, for example.
Correct.
So as a I think any human being, because there's so much information overload anyway happening. Your WhatsApp is throwing you so many things that you So you have to number one, know what is happening. You have to know about different cultures. I think traveling, every time you travel to a new country, a new place, you learn so much about the history. You learn so much about things, and then you realize you're just a frog in the well. There's so much to learn. So I think learning is something which anyway people should do continuously. And long-term goals will be to perform as much as possible, perform to more audiences, and I never know where life can take you, to be honest with you. Because when I started doing comedy, I didn't know I would be a comedian. Number one, Like I still meet people who tell me, "Arey, we never knew you." I said, "Even I didn't know I was a comedian."
Yeah.
So I did thanks to comedy, I got I've acted in 25 commercials, TV, digital, both.
Yeah.
So I never knew I would do that, and I keep it very open. Anytime I get any new opportunity, people say, I said yes.
Yeah.
Let's look at it. Na kya hai? That's what life is all about,
Yeah.
And especially I give this advice to a lot of young people, that when you're young, you take all the things what you want, Like I told my daughters 2 years back, listen, go for a solo trip somewhere, wherever you want to go. Because you travel just, makes you stronger, makes you more aware of what's happening in the world. Makes you more aware as a global citizen. Now we are no longer, we are all global citizens. You have to understand that, Like earlier, Indians used to have, when you see any, Gora audience, used to you feel that they are slightly more advanced than you, or they know more than you. But now that's no longer the thing. We are Indians are all over the world. We are doing so much, better than most of the other, people. And I think it's a lot of pride in that as well.
Yeah, I mean, even in the US, in the Indian diaspora is the most affluent in
Absolutely.
terms of per capita income, even in the US, right? Indians have surpassed all other, say,
absolutely.
Chinese or Koreans or anybody else, or even the native people there. So in terms of passing on your craft because you're one of the OGs, as I said, right? And you've been doing it for so many years. Do you think about those things? How can I pass on the things that I have learned, maybe through your daughter, maybe through mentoring other comics, maybe through any sort of a channel where you can teach other people as well. Is that something that you think about?
See, I think you can't teach anybody stand-up comedy.
Okay.
You can teach writing. You can teach the basics. You can teach the do's and don'ts. Stand-up comedy is all about writing. So you should have. So in some colleges they teach creative writing,
Right.
which is a great thing to sort of at least expand your mind and to see where you can go with your thoughts. But as you rightly said, it's writing and it's a performance.
Yeah.
Performance is something which you will have to finally do.
Huh.
You can train somebody about it. There are some people who conduct stand-up comedy classes and all that.
Huh.
That's for the absolute beginner. People who are a chartered accountant wants to get into comedy just for
Acha.
that. Uske liye theek hai.
Huh.
But if you're getting serious about it, it's very simple. You write original jokes, get on stage wherever you can, and just keep on delivering it. And you become better day by day. The more you hit the stage more, the more you get comfortable with your own voice. With the audiences, with the stage, and there's nothing more.
So there's no structure to it. Like when you're writing a joke, for example, ऐसा कोई frameworks नहीं होता है कि maybe there are like 5-10 frameworks.
नहीं. Those are the standard frameworks, but now those frameworks have gone.
अच्छा.
I heard last year the Melbourne International Comedy Festival. There's a comedian who's on a treadmill.
Okay.
Every show there's a treadmill. There's a treadmill on stage.
अच्छा. Okay.
Behind him there's a huge screen.
हाँ.
And a gorilla is running on the screen and he's running on the treadmill. Every show he runs for 1 hour on the treadmill with a mic and talking about his life. And at one stage, in the end, he stops and the gorilla catches up with him. So there's a story about it,
Okay.
So there's
no framework
script.
for that.
There's no framework for that. And that is what comedy
But
is all about.
like जैसे storytelling में, there like even in films there are framework like there's a main character, he has some goal that he has to
There's an
achieve,
arc,
there's an obstacle,
he falls down, he comes back again.
हाँ, वैसा कुछ नहीं होता.
ऐसा नहीं है, ऐसा है, हो सकता है, but now there's no really limit,
Okay.
There's a comedian called Hannah Gatsby. She had, I think, won the best comedian, I think, in one of the festivals or something. Her that special, I think it was called Nanit. If you see, it's an emotional story about how she's a lesbian, how she came out. And there are not like, it's not like punch, shut up, lunch, shut up, and there are like, it's very emotional, and at the end there's a huge laughter. So there is no really. Earlier there was rule of 3, there's a callbacks,
Achha.
you have segues, all those things you have, all that is still there.
Okay.
But now there is nothing you can.
मतलब it's become common knowledge.
It's
वो सब
that-
जो framework है वो तो बहुत basic हो
वो
गया.
तो बहुत basic हो गया. वो तो
अच्छा.
you can follow in your regular presentations also if you want to do.
हाँ. Okay.
But comedy में कुछ नहीं है. If you go to these festivals and you see some of the shows over there,
हाँ.
it's like crazy. I mean, you can't think how they're thinking.
Okay.
And that's what it is. The mind is such, you can explore whatever you want to do.
So are you trying to explore something completely unique, different?
Not as
what's
of right
your
now.
What's your process of writing? Like your personal process. How much time do you devote to writing versus performance?
I'm pretty lazy that way.
Achha.
I'm old and I'm lazy. So I know some comedians have got proper like thing. Every morning they'll write for an hour or things like every morning they'll switch off everything and then write for an hour. I don't have that.
Okay.
But I continuously as a comedian, you're thinking of thoughts.
Yeah.
In your free time.
Huh.
You're reading, you're thinking of thoughts. I like to consume a lot of comedy also.
Okay.
Live comedy also. So I think if I'm free on a particular evening and there's no social commitment or work commitment, then I am at a comedy club watching comedy. Or performing and watching. I learn a lot from, other comedians, how like Anthony Jeselnik, which I said, is a very famous. 100% dark humor, 100% dark. There's nothing light in the humor. He talks about dead babies, he talks about killing babies, but the way he says it, it doesn't come out like a psycho on stage. The craft is so beautiful.
Yeah.
These are all jokes. Maybe he's not that character, but it's a character he's put on stage.
Okay.
So it's so beautifully done. So you keep on learning. You keep on consuming so much that you. So I am a big fan of. Advice I give to a lot of comedians is go and watch live comedy happening in your city.
Do you take notes when you're watching? How is that process of writing that?
So typically what happens in comedy when you start, you have a good 5 minutes.
Okay.
You take it everywhere. Like you get 5-minute spots only.
Correct.
That 5 becomes 10, 10 becomes 15, 15 becomes 20, 30. And then that 30 becomes an hour. It could take a lot of time.
Okay.
Because again, as I'm saying, the jokes have to work not only in your neighborhood, not in your city. It has to be slightly, if not global, at least on an India level.
Correct.
Like I remember the first time I was given a show in Delhi, I had some jokes about Worli and things like that. You have to drop those jokes.
Yeah.
You can't talk about Worli in Delhi,
Yeah.
They say, what the hell are you talking about? So then you have your arsenal has to be so much that that entire 1 hour should relate in Pune, Delhi, Bangalore, Calcutta, everywhere. You know, so that is your first thing. So I remember when my first hour, I was like, you write it down, obviously, so that you don't forget anything. You have only 1 hour. And then I like to have segues, like connectors. Segues are nothing but connectors between stories.
Correct.
So comedian may have like 5 stories on stage, but there's like a thread among them which connects all of them, you know.
So you consciously weave that
Yeah,
thread
so then
into
you take it on, you can even jump from one to the other. There's no really rules as such in comedy, but I'll usually like to keep a thread so that you're taking them on a journey. Then maybe you do a callback of a first story in the last story. People will laugh at that, you know, so that they're remembering all that. So there are tricks which are there to sort of, and because what happens, common question you get, how do you remember 1.5 hour of material? Like last Sunday I did like 1 hour 28 minutes. Because you've written it yourself. These are your stories. Obviously, you have exaggerated. You use your creative liberty, but it's your story, so you remember it. You know, but you have to write down something. You should not forget a punch, or you should not forget a big chunk. Suddenly, you can just forget. You're human after all.
Is it an advantage or a disadvantage to be older than the younger generation of comics?
No, I really wouldn't say. Obviously, there's a slight advantage, I would say. Number one is because you have a longer timeline. So I can talk about my school life, I can talk about my college life, I can talk about my children, I can talk about marriage, I can talk about my mother-in-law, I can talk about my 25 years of work life. I have a longer timeline compared to an 18-year-old kid who's got a timeline
Shorter
only up
timeline.
to his relationship with his parents, maybe with his siblings, and
Dating
dating life, school, college. You know?
Yeah.
Not gone through marriage, so he's not been through marriage, but not necessarily he can't talk about marriage. He can observe somebody else's marriage and talk about it. He can observe his parents' wedding and talk about wedding.
So you're saying that you can be more relatable to a larger audience because of the wider experience. So it's an advantage.
I'm not really. Sometimes it can be like if I'm just doing marriage jokes and young kid is sitting, you say, what the hell?
समझ में नहीं
आ रहा. They are not getting the context. You know? Or if a young kid talks about dating Tinder and all to a group of 50-year-olds sitting, they'll have them not know what Tinder is. So I'm just giving you. So it's you have to understand your crowd. So one thing which I always do, as much as possible, try to go much earlier in the show, see the crowd.
Acha.
Yeah.
Oh, that also.
Yeah. I like to see the crowd.
So maybe you can change around a few words in your jokes.
I will. So usually if there's an opening act or an act before you, you go and hear what she's talking about, where the audience is laughing, not laughing. You know, sometimes we go to shows where the host will tell you, "Arey boss, do all sexual jokes, do what you want, use bad words and all that." I don't believe him. I'll go and release a test joke.
Okay.
Like it happened to me recently. I was performing somewhere in Ludhiana. And we are very liberal, we do this, you say what you want and all that. He was a host, he said that. But the audience was very conservative, I released one joke and they started doing, and and all that, so.
But what is your view on this? Because there are some comedians who solely rely on sort of this kind of material, right?
I don't think nobody.
Because I think you are quite clean on.
No, I'm not extremely clean. I give bad words if I want to. But again, let me tell you, if you use bad words as a crutch to get laughter, that is no longer there. That's no longer there. That shock and awe 12, 13 years back when he's saying this F word on stage, he's saying BC on stage. Oh my God, it's so nice. Oh, whatever.
But आजकल अभी भी लोग करते तो हैं ही.
करते हैं, but you can't use it as a joke. You can't get it to use it as a punchline. It could be a matter of exasperation. What the F इसने ऐसा किया. But that's more of a thing which you would have anyway done with your friends. You know what I'm saying?
You can't bank on it to make the punchline.
100% not. That is not there. People stopped laughing at that 10 years ago. So sometimes I've seen young comedians, especially very new, they'll unnecessarily, say such words and all that, and it turns off people.
Yeah.
So you cannot use those words. So, but like I use bad words in my set, but it may come at one point, it may not come the next day because I've not written it. कि हाँ मुझे BC बोलना ही है to get a laugh. वो तो होगा ही नहीं.
हाँ, वो अगर audience के साथ click हो रहा है तो आएगा.
अगर उस दिन मुझे emotion है, I get too much into it. अगर मैंने बोल भी दिया, so I take this feedback from after shows and they say, boss, you've given bad words, लेकिन लगी नहीं कान को.
That's important.
Yeah.
It should not stand out कि ये बोलने के लिए बोल रहा है.
हाँ, वो तो बोलने के लिए तो बोलना वो तो बंद हो गया है, That's one part of it. Second part of it, we get a lot. Oh, I can't get my kids because you give bad words, on stage.
Yeah.
So first of all, comedy is not for children. Okay, life
Acha.
is not simple. Life is hard. Life is life is
Not
not
a
clean.
family show.
Life is not clean. Life has got everything in it. So I find those people damn prudish. And those are the same guys who say, oh, you should do clean comedy. You see their phone, दुनिया भर का सारा porn भरा हुआ है उनके phone से, so they want to act like,
No, but I like your angle to it कि उसको डालने के लिए मत डालो. If it is fitting, then it's different.
बिल्कुल नहीं. डालने के लिए डालोगे तो 100% flop. See, that audience is very, very smart.
Yeah.
They know what your voice is, what it is,
And options भी आजकल बहुत हो गए हैं, तो then they recognize the faker.
No, the comedy में the best part is that if you fake on stage, audience comes to know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Ek to when you're faking it, you yourself are not confident about it because you're faking it, right? Like I always give the example, if I say, hey, last night I went to a comedy show, I did very well, then I went to the bar, I met these two young girls, and they said, let's party, But if I say I met these two young girls and they came to me and say, uncle, we are your daughter's friends. That is more funny and that's the truth.
Yeah.
Because my daughters are that age.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying is,
because it's more relatable.
And that is the truth. I mean, who wants to hang around with a really 56-year-old man and go dancing with him in a nightclub?
Understood.
That I myself cannot imagine that frame. Uncle dancing with two young women. The actual frame is they coming to say, uncle, we are your daughter's friends. That's more selfie. Can you give me a selfie? That is more relatable, and that is the truth, and the audience can see through that.
Yeah. So when you started your life in stand-up comic, that is the time when India was also getting the taste of stand-up comic,
Absolutely.
right?
India
उसके
was
पहले तो
opening
था ही
up.
नहीं.
India was opening up.
Stand-up comic was brought in India, I think, around the time that you
2010,
started.
2011, maybe 1 or 2 years before me.
Correct. So there were very few Indian comics at that time.
Absolutely.
And I think all of them knew each other. You formed that collective East India Company.
East India Comedy.
Sorry.
Company was started long time.
East India Comedy. And then Tanmay Bhatt had his own AIB.
Yeah.
And the universe of stand-up comics in India was very small.
We used to all fit on a WhatsApp group. At that time, the WhatsApp limit was 50 of people in India.
Correct. आजकल कैसा है?
Aajkal is huge.
हाँ.
It's like crazy. You go to open mics, every time you see new faces.
अच्छा.
Which is very good.
हाँ.
Because we want new voices to come. It's also become very challenging for these new comedians. They don't get enough stage time because comedy clubs be kami hai. So for them to get stage time in those comedy clubs, like there are comedy clubs in Bombay where there are shows at 6 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 12 o'clock. There's a midnight show. And there's a midnight show. There's a comedy club in Juba. Midnight show hota hai. Audience aati hai. 6 aate hain, 8 aate hain.
अच्छा.
And typically the comedy clubs will give new artists that time spots कि तुम 12 बजे के spot पे आओ because 10 o'clock I need to sell tickets.
Correct.
So I need slightly senior comics to run the room. But तुम लोग नए comic 12 बजे के spot पे आओ. So there are 8 comics and there are 4 people in the audience.
Okay.
But that's how even when we started that time तभी भी audiences कम होती थी.
Correct.
I have performed to 4 people. I once performed to 2 people. Okay, when I started.
I remember I went to a comedy show. We were 5 of us, and there are 6 comics. And all these famous. Biswa was there. Zakir was there. This is a long time ago. All of them, right? 6 comics, and it was called Trial Room. They're trying new stuff.
Absolutely.
Kunal Kamra was there, and we came, and they're like, "हाँ, हम आपके लिए wait कर रहे हैं." So we went, and there was nobody. It was a huge room. There's nobody. अभी तो कोई आया नहीं. हाँ, people will come. So we said, okay, we'll get a drink and come. We went, got a drink. He came back. Nobody in the audience. They said, हाँ, अब हम लोग show चालू करते हैं. आप लोग बैठिए. So we 5 of us, we sat and started the show. There's nobody else. So if we didn't buy the tickets, there's nobody.
The show could have got cancelled.
Yeah, because there's 6 comics, all of the best ones today, right?
It happens.
So yeah, that's how
it still happens. Sometimes shows get cancelled because people don't turn up.
So now what is the relationship between you and all the other comics who've been there for many years, or all the new comics? Do you guys hang out a lot?
We hang out.
Do you have a social life with the comics?
Yeah, we do have social. We meet at some parties or some get-togethers. Some common get-togethers. We meet up. You would bump into them in the green room, backstage. and at least I'm to friends with everybody.
Huh.
And there are no groups or things like that. I mean, there are no camps or things that I don't think there are. Some comics, based on their age, based on their, thing, they may hang around together.
Yeah.
Like I was with the East India Comedy Boys for a long time.
Correct.
In 2007, we started in 2014 to 4-5 years we were together. And so they are like pals. Even after the comedy collective broke out, we are still the best of friends. So we hang around sometimes. We may meet up once in 6 months just to catch up and things like that.
And how is the scene divided across the country? Kahan pe aajkal, where are the comics? Is Bombay the hub or
so Bombay
no longer?
Is typically the hub because it is the entertainment. So a lot of writing opportunities come up here.
Correct.
So there are a lot of comedians who have come from Delhi, Bangalore, all over India now, settled in. From Kanpur, from here, they're settled in Mumbai now. They get a lot of writing opportunities, performance opportunities. But honestly, the better comedy clubs right now are in Delhi NCR region.
Okay.
The best comedy club in India is in Gurgaon and in Dwarka.
Okay.
Yeah, Noida also I think it's coming up. So because they have the space, Bombay में space की तो वो problem है. And Bangalore has a great scene.
Yeah.
Chennai has a great scene.
Acha.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Pune has a lot of comedians. So you'll be surprised, even places like Jaipur and small cities. And Jaipur is not a small city, but even smaller cities like Coimbatore and where did I go to? Cochin or somewhere. I don't know. Perform somewhere.
Calicut.
One of these small. They also have like local comics
who are doing well,
who are at least trying to build a scene.
Yeah.
Who go to a coffee shop on a Monday and say, give us the space. We'll get like 20-30 people to come and they put up a mic, put up a stage, whatever, and comedy karte hain. Fortunately, comedy mein zyada setup nahi lagta hai. You just require a mic, maybe a stage, lights, tray, if the room is big. Otherwise, you can sort of do it anywhere.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So last question before that, before we go into the segment of some fun things that we want to do.
Sure.
Anything that you want to talk about? I know you said that your daughter's wedding is coming up, but any other future projects that you are looking forward to or you're excited about? Some show that maybe.
So I had last year I had a special called Daddy Cool.
Okay.
It was called Daddy Cool, which I took it for 2.5 years. I traveled. Pandemic भी था तभी, so थोड़ा breakup हो गया था. But I took it across the world last year, 2023. I had a US tour and all that. Now that entire show I'm putting up on YouTube. Some of the clips I've already started putting up on YouTube. And there's a new show which I've not yet given it a name. I'll be soon giving it a name. And then maybe Dada Cool, I don't know. I'm no longer Dada, but yeah. And then I will be, so that's a new show I'm traveling with. So I've got shows in Dubai, Mumbai. So follow me on atulkhatri.com and you can see where I'm coming in the city near you.
Yeah, we saw that you have shows all over the world. So wish you all the best.
Thank you so much.
I'm sure it'll be great.
All the best for your channel also.
Yeah, thank you so much. So we want to do a segment on some fun things. Let's see how this will go. So in this segment, we'll give you some situations and we just want your sort of humorous take on it.
Okay.
And let's see how it goes. It'll be like a fun segment, yeah? So the first situation is you're performing at an international comedy festival and suddenly you realize that your audience doesn't speak English.
Yeah.
So how will you still make them laugh?
So this has actually happened to me.
No way.
It has actually happened to me. So I did once a corporate show in Delhi. And usually what happens when you do a corporate show, you have a con call with the client to understand who is the audience, what is it, is it the employee engagement, are they calling their dealers or what is it? For something, I don't know, the guy in between was not responsive, whatever. I knew the show was that time, I had got my advance, I reached the hotel, my flight ticket, it was in Gurgaon, the show. And the conference was going on, so they said your show is in the evening.
Okay.
So I was chilling in my room and they said come down at 6:30 and the audience has sort of gone to take a break. And said, no, in half an hour you're going on stage. And I look at the audience, they were all people from like China, Korea, Vietnam, Cambodia. So this is the company which is in Gurgaon, but they have like the Southeast Asia offices. So they had called all their employees from those to Delhi. And so then I looked at the audience and there were two people from Singapore. Singapore, I know they understand English, they speak English. So I asked the guy that, do these guys understand English? He said, no. So I said, then how did you do the conference? He's saying, the reason we did it in Delhi, because Delhi you get translators.
Okay.
So in the conference throughout the day, the MD must be talking. There were translators. So the Korea table sitting with the Korean translator, Chinese guy sitting with the Chinese translator.
Yeah.
Like there were around 50 or 60 of them, and 20 people from India, from the India office. And so I said, no, where are the translators? बोलते वो लोग तो गए, उनका काम खत्म. अभी तो entertainment है. So I said, how will they understand me? I speak in English. And he looked at me saying, yeah, you're right. They will not understand you.
Then what?
So I told him, एक काम करो, at least the Indians जो आपके base है, make them sit in the
front.
He said, no, these guys are our guests. Atiti Deva Bhava, हम तो पीछे बैठेंगे. So I'm telling you, I said, you should have had a Bharatnatyam dancer, a Kathak dancer, get some Bollywood dancing. It's like visual arts is much better than somebody talking.
Yeah.
And I went and like luckily I got my payment before. I died such a slow death because they were not understanding at least Singapore.
Yeah.
So I started talking just to the Singapore people, but the rest of you're talking to two Singapore people, and the rest of them don't understand anything.
Yeah.
The Singapore people are two people laughing. Those 20 Indians are laughing just seeing my slow death.
Yeah.
And then they realized, they said, yeah, we are sorry, we didn't think this through. I said, yeah, exactly. Why did you call me? So this has actually happened to me.
So it's just like an impossible situation to get
If
out
you don't
of.
understand your language, what do? You can't dance on stage.
Yeah.
Maybe I would have danced, maybe a funny dance would have helped us.
Yeah. Okay, this is an interesting one. Let's see if this works. You've been asked to give a stand-up performance in a courtroom where a trial is going on.
Wow.
What jokes would you crack without getting held in contempt of court?
So definitely not on the judge. Maybe I would do audience interaction with the... Because in every courtroom you see, at least you see that in movies, I don't know what happens.
Yeah.
So there are one is the
witness.
the
witness stand.
witness ek hai. There are 2-3 people who are involved in the case. Whereas there's some 30-40 random
Why are they there?
Why are they there? So I would probably do an audience like tum kyun aaye ho idhar? Like, are you related to them?
Yeah.
Or you just came here for the fan? You just, it was hot outside. You wanted somewhere to sit.
Yeah.
बड़े India में वेले लोग बहुत होते हैं. If you see a construction happening, suddenly within 1 hour you'll see some 100 people around it just standing and watching. That road being dug. I don't know. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
I used to tell my wife that sometimes I just want to do that, Like especially, I remember I used to go for work at Nariman Point, and that time कुछ construction work चल रहा था, Churchgate station के बाहर. And then in the morning, if you go to that place, like lakhs of people just zoop. And then there was some construction work, and there was some like, I'm not kidding, 2,000-3,000 people just around that, just sitting and watching that digger go tuck, and they're just watching it. Like, like काम पे जाओ यार क्या कर रहे हैं.
Nice.
वो इंडिया में जो 1.4 billion है ना वो दिखते हैं. You can see them. You go to the airport in the morning at 3 o'clock. As soon as you exit the airport at 3 o'clock, and the airport is just packed of people, and you're like, oh shit, like this is 1.4 billion all at 3 o'clock at Mumbai airport.
Yeah, not true. Sometimes you just want to go outside so that you're not seeing people. That's
like I live in Mumbai. It's pretty quiet.
Especially in Bombay, it's a big problem.
No, तो Bombay में क्या है ना? I live in a fairly which is not very busy. So sometime at 10:30, 11 on a Saturday night, एकदम शांत सन्नाटा, And then some friend will come and tell you, let's go for a drive. Sit in the car, you go like half a kilometer, and it's like a traffic jam.
Yeah, at any point in the night.
Yeah.
ये मतलब concept ही नहीं है रात और दिन का.
Yeah, कुछ नहीं है. So it's very different. Bombay is beautiful.
Yeah. So you are at a wedding and the bride and groom suddenly ask you to give an impromptu speech, and obviously you have to be true in your character and make some funny jokes.
Yeah.
And because it's a wedding, then you have to make marriage jokes. So what are the funny moments that for a person who is just getting married, what might you say?
First of all, I will if I know that they're Gujaratis or Sindhis, I would go for something of that. Like if, for example, a Sindhi marrying a Gujarati, like your children will be so shrewd, like have babies because you'll have the most shrewdest babies on earth.
Yeah.
So something of that I would do. Then something in a marriage I would do like a lifafa. Like people come with lifafas, and
true.
So I said there are cameras everywhere. So I hope you're giving a lifafa.
Yeah.
And if you don't have a lifafa, there's a ATM at the hotel lobby. Go and remove money.
But actually, में आजकल होता है. Did you know this?
What?
मतलब if you don't have lifafa in some
you put
wedding,
QR codes.
हाँ.
GPay का.
Yeah. मतलब I've seen it on WhatsApp, not at a real wedding.
I know it happens abroad. Abroad it happens where they have this registry hota hai,
registry.
and like my daughter told me she went for somewhere and there was a QR code. kya pay for the couple's honeymoon plans.
हाँ.
So they must be wanting to go to Tahiti or somewhere, so they're collecting money. So
They're collecting, मतलब QR code में donate कर दो
you
जितना
can
donate
donate
करना
करना है, आपको 20 pound
अच्छा.
देना है, 30 pound देना है, 100 pound देना है, whatever you had in mind देना है.
हाँ.
And which I think is very logical.
It is logical.
Because I hate people getting flowers to wedding.
Yeah.
It'll go in waste basket after 2 days.
हाँ.
So at least give something for the couple. I think this registry system,
हाँ.
for some reason, why it's not in India. It should be there.
वो it remove that emotion ना. We are emotional people.
अरे
Indian
क्या
people.
emotion है? We'll give some stuff which is lying at home. कोई किसने कुछ दिया है, दिवाली पे उसको रीपैक करके आप आगे
Repack
करो
करके
किसकी
दे दो.
शादी पे. So that's.
पर I think वही है, हम लोग इंडियन पीपल अभी इमोशनल, वो लॉजिक नहीं चलता है.
आज वो लगेगा भी कि ये थोड़ा ऐसे चीप लगेगा कि पैसा मांग रहे हैं.
हाँ.
But I think it makes most sense.
Logically तो it makes most sense.
Rather than giving cash, which is little, I think cash, envelope देता ना आपको, तो मेरे को तो चिढ़ आती है कि किसी कैश लेने को.
Yeah.
Either there's a registry,
QR code.
QR code है कि अब बच्चों को जाना है किधर हॉलिडे पे, या they are maybe buying a car, they want to buy a car after wedding and they are buying money for that fund, right?
Literally I'm telling you, क्योंकि because I studied in the US, तो हमारे जब friends लोग का शादी होता था, तो registry में they would have things like microwave, toaster.
So they tie up with
चम्मच कांटा दे दो.
They tie up with a Nordstrom or one of these
exactly.
Macy's or something.
Glasses खरीदना है क्योंकि नया घर में अब शिफ्ट होंगे.
Correct.
शादी के बाद तो सब चीज चाहिए. तो सब चीज किचन का सारा सामान, everything is there. You can buy anything.
And once you buy like the crockery, वो चले जाते हैं list से. So somebody else coming, he'll buy a bed sheet for you.
Yeah.
Which I think makes so much sense. Yeah.
It's amazing. It's amazing. Okay. I think we'll do a couple more.
Sure.
You are at a parent-teacher meeting and your child's teacher is convinced that stand-up comedy is not a real job. How would you convince her?
Ma'am, I'm paying for the fees which is coming from stand-up comedy. Paying your salary, it comes from my stand-up comedy.
Yeah.
I think that is the thing. But in a way, there's more to the question is because a lot of people still don't believe that there's a profession in stand-up comedy.
They think this is a side job.
It's a side job. Like I still have friends, like I've been doing it for 12 years. They say, "Kab tak karega tu?" Like when are you getting back to your job? Like, and then you tell them about the scope and what some of the comedians make money in this. And it's a job like any other job.
Is it good money?
It's good money as long as you are hardworking at it.
If you're at the top.
Not even at the top. If you're hardworking, like as a good writer, good writers की तो Bollywood में इतनी क्या बोलते हैं, there's a dearth. If you're a good writer,
correct,
who's written good scripts or can contribute to a script, there is good money in it. I mean, there is this. I would say you can live your life on the writing job because आजकल what I believe is there are so much things coming on OTT and all. Most people are looking at good scripts, good writers. I'm talking about that line. Comedy, as I said, you can do corporate shows, you can do public ticketed shows, you can do private shows, you can help in writing assignments, award shows, वो आप लिख सकते हो उसमें. If you're interested in that. You can get into a writing room where there are a lot of writers. You also are a part of the writer contributing to that. So काफी there is it, but you have to be out there. मतलब like any other person, तुम बैठोगे बोलेगा काम आएगा तो काम नहीं आएगा, तुमको तो जाना पड़ेगा. मेहनत तो है. In fact, I think I'm working more in this line than I was working as a CEO of the company.
Okay.
And because it's my own brand. Earlier we used to sell HP, Wipro, IBM. अभी तो खुद का brand है, you have to sell.
And सब खुद से करने का.
खुद पे करना है. And अगर तुम slack करोगे, it's all on you. अगर तुम नया वीडियो नहीं डालोगे तो your numbers will fall. I mean, people think you're not doing comedy any longer. So that constant pressure on you to write material, to go on stage, to release material. So just to stay relevant as such.
Do you have a sizable team for maintaining your personal brand, or you have to do a lot of it yourself?
So I have a company which manages me work. So they help you. They're supposed to help you. They help you in telling your brand strategy, or don't do this, that, things like that. But more or less, it's all upon you. It's upon you. So I handle my social media accounts on my own, which I think is very important. Because it's your voice has to come out on stage, has to be the same on social media. You can't talk different on social media. You can't be a different person.
Yeah, true. Especially because you are that public-facing sort of a job.
Exactly. If you're upset at something happening in the country, you do mention it. And you can't show a different face here, different face there.
Correct. Okay, let's do last one.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. we'll do two more. You've been given the task to roast a famous Bollywood celebrity, but who would you roast and how?
So first of all, I would take somebody who's fun, who's willing to take jokes, because I know Bollywood is very guarded.
Acha.
They are very, very guarded. They don't.
Are you friends with Bollywood celebrities?
Few, but the thing is that I know for a fact that they are under tremendous pressure to see that their image in public is always held, right? Because I've done some interviews with Bollywood actors, scripted, branded work.
Yeah.
And typically their PR team before that says, what is the question? Don't ask this, don't ask this, don't this, ask this, don't ask this. So it's all very fairly scripted.
Yeah.
So if I have to roast somebody, I would roast somebody as like cool as Shah Rukh Khan, because I personally think Shah Rukh Khan is damn cool. He's very witty himself.
Yeah.
He's very humorous. So he would be willing to take jokes, and probably he'll give 2-3 on me also. You know, but somebody who's not witty, who doesn't have a sense of humor, like, I don't know.
I think it's a lot about you have to be very confident, secure about yourself.
Absolutely. You have to be secure about yourself. You have to be
Then
willing to
only-
take
and
jokes.
Shah Rukh Khan ko to who can touch Shah
You
Rukh
can
Khan?
self-deprecate. Because you hear him, he self-deprecates himself a lot.
Yeah. Correct.
Which means he's very cool to take jokes. Like people come, you know, sometimes people say, "Arey sir, tum to buddhe ho," you know, trying to roast me. As यार ये तो second stand में हो गया joke 10 साल पहले हो गया अभी आगे बढ़, you know. I mean, we've as comedians we have taken so many jokes on ourselves. We made jokes of ourselves on stage, like, you know.
Correct.
I say my wife and 2 daughters, I call them 3 daughters because they all look young, you know. And people say, oh, you have 3 daughters. अरे यार वो तो मैंने खुद कर दिया 4 साल पहले, अभी तो आगे कुछ बोल, you know. So like, so it's
But
know,
how would you roast Shah Rukh Khan?
no, you have to be very intelligent. Right? I mean, I can't think of jokes right now, but you have to have a very intelligent jokes on him. Yeah. Like, so, like I heard recently, like, I think, I don't know whether we can say that, I don't know, but I will try to edit it, but I'm just telling you, I don't know. If you want to keep it, just keep it if I can. Let's go for it. So apparently Russell Peters recently was performing somewhere where Shah Rukh was in the audience.
Okay.
And Russell Peters goes and tells him, hey Shah Rukh, I know you. When I'd come to Bombay 4 years back, you met me and you gave me your number. And said, whenever you're in Bombay, next call me. And then he looks at the audience. I think Bombay phone numbers don't work. Because ever since I've tried to call him, he's never picked my phone. Which is a smart way of getting at somebody, like, you know, obviously.
Yeah.
So, like, you have to write very smart jokes on somebody like Shah Rukh, you know. I think somebody like Ranveer also, Singh, looks pretty cool. I think so, you know.
He's also secure and confident about his.
Yeah.
I think that's something that keeps coming up in the podcast also, that there is a little bit of insecurity in a line like this.
In a line like this, you have to keep your, you know, camps, you know.
Acha.
Like I've heard a story where a guy, a Bollywood celebrity, wanted to get his hair cut, but he said they said and they were somewhere out of Bombay, and they said, okay, we'll get this highest paid other hair stylist to go. He's saying, no, get somebody else, because his wife is something, or the husband of the hairstylist is a movie producer. I'm looking for a role there in that movie, so maybe giving job to her will. So that's a level their PR team and they think, you know. Yeah. By saying this, you can upset that person. Maybe after 2 years, you may work with that person. So let's not talk about it. So they are continuously thinking, you know,
what
rightfully
action,
so.
what word will upset whom?
And in today's world of social media, where, you know, everything of theirs is recorded, it's so painful. Can you imagine? You know, it's like continuously on the guard, you know. Recently, I saw some video of Shah Rukh Khan and his daughter somewhere in London or New York buying shoes. And some Indian has secretly recorded it and put it up on Instagram. See, I can see Shah Rukh and Suhana buying some shoes. Hey, don't do that, yaar. I mean, he's in his private moment with his daughter. You know, leave it, yaar. You know, kya tum karoge uska? I mean, you will get those 500 likes on your page or whatever, you know, for what?
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Okay, now actually the last one. Let's see. You're stuck in an elevator with 3 different types of stereotypical Indian uncles. What's the conversation like, and how do you keep your sanity? So imagine that you're stuck there. It's like maybe the doors are not opening.
Yeah. So for all these stereotypical uncles are pretty my age. I'll not call them uncles. You call them uncles. They are my age. Yeah. And I get into the stereotypical uncles on WhatsApp groups every day. Okay. Which is like an elevator, which is a closed group, like an elevator. And first of all, I give it back to them when it has to be given. But sometimes you have to be just diplomatic. You play along. You come to know within 2 minutes what is there. I would say, understanding of their
What
worldview.
do you imagine would happen? You're stuck there. It's a closed space. There are
Huh.
three other people.
I think I would get
And
along with them.
it
I
is
would.
getting really hot and humid.
Huh.
Now, what's going to happen? What are they going? How are they going to reacting, and how are you reacting?
So I think first of all, half of them will start blaming politicians. You know, if they are right, they'll say ये तो राहुल गांधी का fault है. ये lift बंद हो गया. ये नेहरू जी ने lift बनाई थी. You know? If it's a Modi fan, they'll say something else. Yeah, I mean, whatever. So they will, first of all, within that room, they'll start fighting amongst each other. You know, so I'll be just observing and enjoying. You know. And agreeing with both. I'm a guy वो दोनों में आग लगाऊंगा.
अब लगाओगे क्या?
हाँ, दोनों में आग लगाऊंगा to just see a fight, bro. I love to do that.
Yeah. Material for next show.
Next material for next show. It's great material. Yeah.
Chalo. Great. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Atul, anything else you would like to say as last words for the?
No, I think stand-up comedy is a new art form which is fairly new in India, around 12, 13 years old. Please go and support live comedy. Go and watch shows. Watch it on your YouTube, watch it on your OTT, but go and watch live shows. Live show experience is absolutely different and very, very enjoyable. A movie could be a hit or a miss, but a good comedy show, I'm sure 1.5 hour well spent, paisa vasool.
Absolutely. I also agree on that because as I was telling you earlier, I've taken some of my friends many years ago for their first live stand-up comedy shows and they're just like blown away कि ये क्या है, ये तो हमने कभी देखा ही नहीं. So please do support Atul Khatri and all the stand-up comics in India.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Atul, for
so
joining us. Thank you.
Take care.
Yeah. So Atul, you're also a parent to two daughters.
Yeah.
And how do you use humor as a way of sort of educating them, teaching them things, bringing them up? Was humor a part of their growing up years?
Yeah, absolutely. When I look back at it, I think humor was a huge part of it.
Aja.
For example, I'll tell you a simple example. So I used to make my kids study, teach them till 8th grade. They were into ICSE board. Till 8th, I could understand. After 8th, I also couldn't understand because I always believe you should understand. Then only you can teach something. So I used to. In the parenting, because my wife was a hairstylist, that time she was forming a career. Achha. So she was very busy with her going to the parlor and things like that. So I was looking after the studies. Itna tak hota tha that evening, some mother would call up my wife and said, kal ye project hai. What is it about? I'm not understanding. And she would say, talk to my husband because he looks after the studies.
Oh, wow.
And I'm in a business meeting at 5:30. Suddenly I get a call on my mobile phone from the AD कि वो जो कल ये जो project है इसको कैसा करना है. And then I'll say, madam 2 minutes. I'll go out and I'll say, madam इसको ऐसा है वो ऐसे करो आप ऐसे करो ऐसा करो ऐसा करो. And I'm making the mother understand how to solve this. That was the thing. So also teaching them. I had always a fun way of teaching them. For example, I remember when they had a maths paper next day. So I used to set up their papers. You set up a mock paper, right? So I would put maths question and then I would write over the PTO, which is please turn over.
Please turn over.
When they turn, I would write over there, now 5 minutes, go and watch TV. Okay. And they would read what? And then suddenly she's running out to the living room, starts the TV, and my wife comes, what the hell, why should you go and tomorrow math? No, it's in the paper. Dad has told me to write paper, Yeah. And when my daughter got slightly older, when she was maybe in the 8th standard or 9th standard. And so I used to I used to write when you have a algebraic equation, x plus y, find the value of x. What is usual?
Find x.
So I used to find the value of x. Then I used to write in brackets. But beta, in life, you'll have to find the value of sex. Much better than x, And my wife would say, what's wrong with you? I said, she's 15 years old. She studies in one of the best schools in Bombay. Of course, she knows what is this. So she's saying, yeah, but why are you writing it? So, but the thing is, they always used to remember that, They used to wait for me to make them study. I always tell parents, make it entertaining for children. For that matter, I remember when I was in the corporate job, I used to go for a lot of these meetings, business meetings, IT meetings. Yeah. And I always remember those speeches which were humorous.
Yeah.
The presentations which are humorous.
Correct.
Always stayed back.
Yeah.
A boring presentation, guy is looking at PPTs, just describing what is up there. Fayda kya yaar? Make it more interesting. I just somehow feel corporate should spend more time in making their presentation, their speeches much more humorous. People will retain that.
Yeah.
So I always used humor as way to retain. Like I remember my when they were kids, they used to go as usual kids. They go to play tennis. As parents say, tennis bhi karo, swimming bhi karo, ye bhi karo. So my wife used to take both my daughters, for example, a tennis class. After she would get them back home. But after tennis, if I have to take them, I would take them to a nearby bakery.
Okay.
And make them, have like a pastry or a croissant or whatever, or some juice, And they used to always care, we want to go with dad. You know? Even she could have done that. I'm just saying, you know, not to spoil them as such, but just to sort of, you know, make it the entire process of going to the tennis or going to anything much more fun, you know. And I think that is very important. Parents should do that. Today's kids are very, very different. They have this mobile phone. Most parents give their children phones nowadays. I believe the age is 12 or 13. Actually, at 13, they start giving them phones because that's the time they are going for classes and all, and parents want to be in touch with them. That's the reason they start giving them phones. A kid at 13 has got this device, you know. It's like a computer. It's like a supercomputer. Your world is open. The internet is open. You know, you have everything on the world over there. And then you try to be saying, nahi, mere bachcho ko aisa pada. I'm saying just be a little more patient with them. They are much more intelligent. They are leaps ahead in generation. What we were and that. So I think just be a little cool to them. You know?
So do you think the use of humor helped you form stronger bonds with your daughter, get
Absolutely.
you closer
Till today. You know,
so you're very close to them.
Yeah. I've said it on stage. I remember once I came back home from a show, and my wife and my both of them were sitting in the room and they were crying. And my wife called her, "Where are you? Something terrible has happened. Come home. And I said, "What happened?" I reached over there and they're crying. What happened? Oh, she fought with a boyfriend. They're broken off, you know. And actually that time the boyfriend was in America, and I was sharing, tabhi India mein Netflix nahi tha, so I was sharing his Netflix password. And my first thing was, beta, what will happen to my Netflix? You know, she said, "Dad, what the hell is wrong with you?" And they laughed, you know. I broke the tension. You were just bothered about your Netflix account. Sir, yaar, dekhna.
Important.
Jo bhi hai, next Crown season dekhna hai. You know?
Awesome.
So like that, I think just humor helps, you know. And kids are smart enough to, you know, realize things on their own. But yeah, I think you just keep it cool with your kids. So Raghav, I want to understand from you. You know, when I got a mail, I thought it was rising superstars. That's you calling me. I'm a rising superstar. But then I thought I read it probably was raising superstar.
Correct.
So what is raising superstars all about?
So raising superstars, the premise of the company is that science tells us that 75% of our brains get wired before we are 2 years of age. And 90% of our brains get wired up before we are even 6 years of age.
So it's like a 90% is fully ready. It can't be changed.
Yeah. So what happens is that when a baby comes into the world, they have brain cells. They have 100 billion brain cells, right? These are the neurons. They are not connected to each other, largely. As soon as the baby comes into the world, they are hit by all kinds of stimulus, right? Like they're seeing things, shapes, colors, sizes, their smells, sounds, everything, right? Even the touch of skin-to-skin touch, the taste of milk, everything is new, and the brain gets completely like fired up and it starts forming these connections.
Okay.
So 75% of the brain is ready in 2 years' time.
Wow.
And 90% by the age of 6, right? So at Raising Superstars, what we do is we say, okay, this is the reality. And before it's too late, give your child the right opportunities to wire up their brain in the right manner. That's the whole concept. So it doesn't mean that we have to get our kids to become like a footballer or a mathematician or a comedian or anything. Give the right opportunities, because the brain will get wired up.
Give them all opportunities.
All opportunities. So brain का wiring तो होना ही है, पर बैठे बैठे होए इससे अच्छा आप उसको right stimulus दो, so it will wire up in the right way. The foundations will be strong. So that is what we try to do at Raising Superstars. And as I was telling you, we started 4 years ago. We have customers across the world now.
Lovely.
But that is what it is. What is in your view, in your experience, do you think you can relate to कि childhood में जो हम सीखते हैं वो fundamentals, it stays with you?
100%. I think the value systems,
your
family का what you see, 0 to 2 तो याद नहीं होगा, but I think 6 तक तो you are fairly, 6 people get into first grade.
Correct.
So you do remember, you remember instances. I think it's actually, honestly, I didn't know. There's a great news to me. I mean, first 90% of your brain is till you're 6 years old.
Yeah.
If you ask my wife, she says, "Ab tak sala mera brain develop nahi hua." That's a different thing. But the thing is that I think, I think it makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just feel that sometimes, I heard recently Javed Akhtar sir. We were talking earlier about Angry Young Man.
Angry Young Man. Huh.
Now he says that you should not teach children religion.
Correct. I've heard that actually from him.
He only said it. So because he's an atheist.
Yeah.
So he says you should not talk. Let them decide what they want to do. Give them the option. Let them read all the books.
Yeah.
And say, okay, I want to follow this religion, that religion, that religion. You know,
Or no religion.
or no religion, but whatever they want to do it. You know, because right from childhood, if you're talking about just for religion, bolo ya खाने के तौर तरीके बोलो.
Correct.
Or the festivals bolo. You know, kids remember. You know, or the dressing what you do that, because I think if 90% of your brain is formed at the age of 6, I think it's very, very critical.
Yeah.
First of all, as you're saying, to rightly stimulate your children,
Yeah.
to give them all exposures, you
Yeah.
know, and let them finally, I don't know, decide on their own. At least
Exactly.
you don't influence them so much. I would say.
So it's not even about कि आपको याद है कि नहीं. Your memories are different from what are the skills you are building.
Can you give me an example? Like,
So मतलब कि जैसे आपने food का बात किया,
हाँ.
right? Now the food habits, if you look at me, right? I'm quite like thin,
Yeah.
right? And I've always been like that. But it's also because I have certain food habits. And those food habits do not
it's
change.
not genetics. Like your dad, mom are also thin.
They are thin, but it's because of the food culture in our home, because we are all eating the same food, right?
Is it vegetarian, if I may ask?
It's vegetarian.
Is it you'll eat early, like 7:38 you'll eat or something like that? Or
नहीं वो तो पहले अलग
it's a
था.
diet? It's a diet?
It's probably no, but what I'm trying to say is that the food habits also develops at a very young age. कि आपको अगर आप बच्चे को to a baby, if you're feeding them sugar too much in the early years, they'll have that sweet tooth and it will carry on. उनको फिर वो sugar का वो रहेगा कि अरे मुझे sugar चाहिए, right? If you see it these days, we are getting a lot of babies who have problems with speech, and there are speech and cognitive delays, completely related to screen time.
Oh.
क्योंकि आप phone दिखाते हो बच्चे को. Now what has happened is that phone has become like a pseudo babysitter.
Yeah, absolutely.
For
while eating food. बच्चा खाना नहीं खा रहा, चलो TV.
So it's like a babysitter. Now, but what happens, what the baby is learning from the phone is that phone आपसे बात कर रहा है, आपको बात करने का जरूरत नहीं है. Because it's a one-way conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that is leading to both speech delay and cognitive delay, and will have long-term impacts.
Oh, never thought of that. Yeah.
So these things, if we were talking earlier, if somebody is introduced to, did you know, I don't know if you know this, but in music, there's a concept of perfect pitch and absolute pitch.
Okay, no, I don't know.
So like if you play a note, it's on a particular key at particular scale, particular note, C, D, E, whatever, right? Now, there are, for a musician, there are two ways to recognize that note. You play a note and they can say it's the C note. Or you play two notes, C and E, and they can say कि अच्छा इसका बीच का interval C से E का है, तो this must be C, this must be E. That is called relative pitch and perfect pitch. Perfect pitch एक note में आप बता सकते हो. That skill to identify the perfect pitch, you can only learn if you have learned it before you are 2 years of age.
Wow.
So even if you're a trained musician, if you didn't learn the skill of perfect pitch before that age, you'll never learn it in life.
But who teaches you this? Like how you learn it on your own, or you learn it through the sounds you hear? How do you, I mean, who teaches a child that to, like, I mean?
So yeah, so most musicians don't have perfect pitch.
Okay.
But people who have perfect pitch have been, their parents have been musicians. They've been around that.
Okay.
For example, if you look at Mozart. Mozart is one of the most famous music composers in the world, right? Along with Beethoven. Now, Mozart wrote his first symphony at the age of 5 years. And symphony is like a long musical piece, right? Why? Because both his parents were musicians and like very trained. So he grew up around symphony and orchestra and piano and everything. So he had that. So वो अपने आप develop हुआ.
I have one question to you. You know, you hear, or I don't know it's true or no. लोग जो बच्चा womb में भी होता है उससे बात करते हैं या music सुनाते हैं. Is there something to it, or is it we are going one step ahead now?
So if I talk in a scientific way, right, there is little bit of evidence to say कि उसमें impact हो सकता है, because see, the child is not seeing anything when they are in the womb, but they are able to hear faintly, but still not so much because there is a barrier, but they are able to hear faintly. पर बहुत कोई proven science नहीं है इसमें. So you can do it, you can play some sounds and music and soothing sounds, etc. कोई प्रूवन साइंस इसमें है नहीं कि बेनिफिट हो रहा है कि
सुना
नहीं.
था अमर चित्रकार में सुना था ना अभिमन्यु.
अभिमन्यु का.
हाँ,
वो
he
तो-
heard the thing of breaking the
Yeah.
chakrivali with the mother's womb, and
Right.
that's how he could break it or something.
There is evidence कि when the baby is born, then the stimulation that you give will lead to long-term benefit.
Okay.
उसमें तो बहुत research हुआ है. Harvard has done it, Yale has done it, many universities have done it, and they have linked it to early childhood intervention to better outcomes of health, income, lot of other things like controlled study किया हुआ है, पर उसका we don't know about that.
So the moral of the story: if your child between 0 to 6, make them hear my stand-up comedy. So बड़े बन के stand-up comedians बनेंगे. I'm joking. No, don't make them hear my comedy.
Yeah.
मस्ती कर रहा हूँ.
चलो.
Thank you so much, Raghav.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.